Hey everyone, my name is Jared Miller and I'm the ministry lead here at the Creek. My family and I live on the other side of the country from where we grew up. And we live in a whole different country from where my wife grew up. We came to Calgary entirely because of this call to ministry, and so I think it's safe to say that our friends have played an outsized role in our lives. We've really gotten to experience that old truism that says that friends are the family you get to choose for yourself. The majority of the book of Job is a series of conversations that happen between Job and a handful of his close friends, who each in turn is going to try to make sense of what's been happening in Job's life, and to each in turn Job is going to respond. But over the next couple of weeks of these Wednesday series of devotionals, I wanted to not so much walk through these conversations as walk around these conversations, because they can seem pedantic and kind of overwordy when people approach the book of Job for the first time. Most of us will just skip over these chapters and go looking in search of the answers that we're hoping God's going to provide at the end of it. But ultimately, I think that that's a mistake, because the meat of the book of Job is more about the full human experience of suffering than it is about the resolution. Remember that Job as a book is a corrective for the whole wisdom tradition. And so it's an invitation, I think, to join in as the silent fifth friend and experience these dialogues in silence, knowing what we know about the prologue. So what I want to do is I want to try to paint a picture of these friends with as much complexity as we can, bearing in mind that we don't get any real context for them or historicity of them. But what I want to try to do is look at them through three lenses over the next 3 weeks. This week, we'll take a look at the things they get right, because there are things that they get right. Next week, we'll explore some of the things that they get wrong, because there are some things that they get wrong. And finally, in the third week, I want to dig into what I think that they're actually trying to say. What are the arguments that they're trying to make to understand what's going on around us? So what is it that they get right? First, we're told that they're simply available. In both the time period where Job takes place and when it was most likely written down, suffering was something that was almost always done in a community. Although you might take the afternoon off work this week to attend someone's funeral, ancient wisdom saw an immense value in making broad space available to mourn as a community. It was partly because communities were far more intermingled back then than they are today. But in any case, you still see this played out in the Jewish practice of sitting Shiva. These friends make epic plans to comfort Job. They leave home and they travel on open-ended travel plans, because I think that they understand that if you really want to know what someone values, you only need to look at two things. You need to look at their checkbook and their calendar. Making space to be available for friends should not ever be overlooked. Second, we're told that they're empathetic, that they understand that there is a difference between sympathy and empathy. Even though both words share the same suffix and are tended to be used interchangeably, sympathy means together or with suffering. Empathy means to be put into suffering. These are not just casual mourners being sad beside Job. They actively enter into his pain, tearing their own robe, putting dust and ashes on their own head, because they understand that they will have their own time to grieve. That right now this is not about them or their loss or their feelings. Empathy keeps their focus on the Job who is suffering. And finally, they're present. They sit for an entire week in silence. They have things they want to say, but they don't. They choose their moment to speak because they understand that being present is its own reward. Availability, empathy, and presence are gifts that ultimately cost the giver nothing, but can mean everything to someone who's suffering. Job's friends often get a lot of slag. Sometimes they're called his accusers, or they get overlooked or oversimplified or painted in one category. We assume something less than the best intentions for them. But even though it's just 3 verses here in the second chapter that they get, they paint for us a picture of what authentic friendship can look like. and remind us that we might have something to learn even from the most accusatory or unpopular people. We'll dig into their conversations a little bit more in the next couple of weeks, but for now, take care of yourselves and take care of each other. All the best, and we'll see you soon. Cheers.